I was thinking the other day, one of the things we talk about as horror fans a lot is the Halloween timeline. And when you look at the timeline, we always talk about, oh, look at the jagged tree that this thing is. You've got essentially like three or four timelines, I think, if you include just Halloween 3 by itself as its own timeline. But what about Texas Chainsaw Massacre? That's probably the most whacked out timeline of all the franchises. I think that truly there's never really been like a third entry to any of the timelines. You might be able to argue maybe part 3, but part 3 makes no mention or follow really any template that part 2 had whatsoever to New Family. I think even in the intro of part 3 with the monologue, it's basically saying, Leatherface is still out there, and, it's, that they reference the first movie. So it's like, and even part 4, it's just like all of them seem to be follow-ups to the original film. And, I don't even know, when you really break it down in a sense, it's like, series may not even be the word. It's just constant reboots and starting over with the Texas Chainsaw franchise, and after 4 films, we get the remake. And then the weird thing is the prequels started kicking in. There's 2 prequels in a sense in this franchise already, which is really weird. You've got Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning, which is really like a half prequel in a sense, because you only get a slight bit of the genuine past with the character of Leatherface, who is essentially the star of the series. And then we get an actual prequel after Texas Chainsaw 3D, which was another sequel to the original film. So when you look at the timeline for Texas Chainsaw, it really is the most bizarre out of all of them. It makes Halloween look like sensible almost. But in a weird way, I don't know, maybe this is just me, and I'd like to know from you guys. I always enjoyed that the Texas Chainsaw series has just like never really been that linear. It's just going back to that original film. And being a big fan of the original film, actually, because it's my favorite horror movie, I always like that, we really reference from that first classic movie. Granted, I wouldn't mind if there was like a genuine story arc that would have happened too, but it just never happened. It just never happened. As a matter of fact, part 3 was the last time that was actually numbered. It was just Texas Chainsaw: The Next Generation. It was not Texas Chainsaw Massacre 4, And it's interesting that within 10 years, we have 2 reboots to the first movie that are direct sequels. It's just wild when you think about it. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is the most unique timeline out of any of them. It's just nothing but parallel universes, one after the other, And it's just interesting. It's not necessarily bad or good to me. It's just interesting. And so we have the new film coming out, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is, I feel like this one is really taking the template from Halloween in a sense, because, while Texas Chainsaw 3D, you could say kind of was in before it was cool to do the requel thing. This one is like really following suit and having the same title this time, where there was Texas Chainsaw 3D before. This is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And, it's interesting. There's not a lot of excitement for this film. I'm excited. I'm excited to see one of the greatest horror characters grace the screen, As far as the movie goes, I've read on what the plot is, and I saw some stuff from the director. I think they actually have one of the chainsaws from the original film that'll be used in the movie. And I saw the new poster that came out, and I actually thought the new poster looked really cool. If you look at the mask on the poster, it's hard to get a really great look at it, but to me it looks like a mix between Texas Chainsaw Part 2 and a little bit of 3D in there. So I think the character of Leatherface is going to be really awesome in this film. I think that this film has a real opportunity to go back to that genuine, gritty, voyeuristic tone that the first film did so well. And maybe it won't even get close, but maybe it will. You know, we're in the last gasp before this film comes out, and I'm probably hoping for reaching the stars, and if it doesn't, oh well. But it doesn't really matter, because after this one they'll probably just do another sequel to the original again, or a prequel, because there's never going to be a part 3, is there? I just find it fascinating that Halloween seems to be the franchise that gets talked about a lot in terms of its jagged timeline, but Texas Chainsaw Massacre is like constant parallel universes, one after the other. And maybe it's because Texas Chainsaw isn't as popular as Halloween, which I think is criminal. But it's not as criminal in the public eye, it seems, that this franchise truly has never had a linear run. It's just constant parallel universes. So I don't know. What do you guys think about that and the film coming out, the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre? I'm interested and I'm excited. And if it doesn't live up to what I want it to be, oh well, you move on with life. But there's always a chance it could be really good.